Fox News Alert. Overnight, South Korean military reporting what we've already picked up. North Korea has launched 2 suspected short-range missiles. It's the second such launch over the last week. Robert Charles served as Assistant Secretary of State for George W. Bush administration, joins us right now. So, Robert, for the longest time we're saying, well, they're not denuclearizing, but at least they're not shooting rockets. Now they're shooting off rockets. What's next?
You know, I think what this tells you is that they're putting off the hard decision, and they really need to keep 3 things in the front of their minds because they're pivotal for them. One is nuclear weapons are a dead-end street for them. Ultimately, they would lead to a preemptive strike. They're never going to use them. The minute they put one on top of a rocket, it will be destroyed, and it would be catastrophic. And China needs to think about that, too, and for that reason, support the sanctions. The second big piece of this is that they have a conventional army. It's one of the largest in the world, and they need to sit back and think about the fact that any deterrence they need will come from that. The third is, honestly, as Mike Pompeo has said in the last week, if they pivot and do the Gorbachev pivot and move toward opening up their economy and getting rid of the nuclear weapons, it could be huge for them. They could get an increase of 100-fold, maybe 80-fold in their economic trade. So there's one direction that points them toward the light and one points to real darkness. This added missile launches and the idea of putting off the big denuclearization decision does not help them. At the end of the day, they need to bite the bullet, do it right, and get the huge economic advantages that come from that.
Oh, they risk being shut down again, but I just wonder if it's a coincidence that they meet with Vladimir Putin. Next thing you know, rockets are going off again.
Let's the truth be told, Vladimir Putin can offer them nothing. The West can offer them everything, so they need to do the Gorbachev pivot and come over here toward the light.
They want to get the natural gas line into South Korea, and to do that, they have to work out something with North Korea. Now let's talk about Iran. Yesterday, we upped the sanctions. It's not just about weapons. Now it's about metal. It's about aluminum, about steel, about copper. We're ramping up the pressure. In turns, Rouhani, the president, came out and said within 60 days we're going to begin to break the nuclear agreement that was still in place, even though we left it with our European partners. What's at stake?
You know, I think you have to look at Iran through multiple lenses, and you have to look very carefully at what we're doing in response. You know, Mike Pompeo was in Baghdad yesterday talking about Iran to the Iraqi leaders. The Abraham Lincoln has been sent directly to the Gulf. I think we're sending 3 very strong messages to Iran. One of them relates to nuclear, but we're sending three really strong messages. One is we're watching you closely, and we know that you had a terrorist event by public reports on the way, either directly or indirectly, and we're gonna respond militarily if you undertake any kind of a terrorist event in the region. Same time, you know, we don't want to see a weekend like last weekend with Israel. Hamas, which is Iranian-backed, and another group in the Gaza Strip launched 600 rockets into Israel. We're not going to see that again. We don't want to see that again. The second big message is we want Iran to pull back in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, where they're supporting destabilization and a civil war. And finally, I think the U.S. carrier battle group over there says several things that are long-term things. One is don't get into the business of creating and even contemplating nuclear weapons, because it will be a dead-end street for you, just like it would be for North Korea. And in fact, I think both of those are at inflection points. And the other big thing is we're saying to our allies around the world, from Taiwan to Colombia, listen, we're there for you again. We were not there for you during the Obama years. We have been a little bit lax in our ability to do power projection. But by sending the Abraham Lincoln over there, we will have free flow of oil in the Gulf. We will support the oil coming out of Saudi, and we support our allies.
How close, real quick, 10 seconds, or 15, how close are they to breaking economically?
Yes, boy, they're getting really close, and I think that could break internally as well as externally. The pressure on them, they have enormous inflation, they have shortages. The people, look, their population wants iPhones, not Ayatollahs. Most of them are under 30, so there could be an inflection point there.
Yeah, we got to let them know the people were on their side. We just
That's right.
We cannot be behind this regime since 1979. Robert Charles, thanks so much.
Yes, sir.